So what do you think about voodoo?
I think it's ancient. Not really practiced now. Yeah. So I don't know.
That it came from Africa, and that some people in North America still practice it.
Okay, I don't know much about voodoo other than like the whole voodoo doll thing.
So when I think of voodoo, the first thing that comes into my head is a voodoo doll and like someone stabbing it, and then the person associated with the doll feels the pain or sensations that the doll is experiencing.
Okay, so I think voodoo to be more of things people count as superstition, of what more people think are related to bad things. I've heard a lot about voodoo dolls and how some people would be very superstitious if they saw a black cat, or some people would use voodoo dolls as to scare other people.
So voodoo, I've heard a lot in the Louisiana culture where, you know, people associate voodoo with magic spells, like a big cauldron. That's what I think of. You know, you're putting weird ingredients in and you're, you know, mixing it. So I even heard, I think voodoo they talked about in The Princess and the Frog, that movie, right? I think so. So that's why I think of Louisiana when I think voodoo, because of that recent movie. Yeah.
I think like in movies a lot it's portrayed as like kind of dark magic, like the dolls, when people like pin it that it hurts the person that the doll is supposed to be made of. But I think there's supposed to be like a good side and like a bad side of it. But mostly it's portrayed as like bad.
Alright, I just think it's just dolls like who curse people, basically.
I think of black magic that puts a curse on people.
Like American Horror Story.
Yeah.
First off, I wanted to know, so you're a Mambo, correct?
Mambo. So a
Mambo.
Mambo, M-A-N-B-O, it means priestess in the Haitian Vodou religion, yes. So I'm a Mambo, what's called a Mambo Asogwe, A-S-O-G-W-E, which is the highest level of initiation. It's kind of like being a bishop in a church, because I can initiate other people. I'm not going to do that for a long time, but I have the authority to do so. So yeah, Mambo is a priest, a Hungan is a priest. Mambo's priestess, Hungan is priest.
Okay.
The country of Haiti is located in the Greater Antilles archipelago of the Caribbean Sea, on the island of Hispaniola. It has an estimated population of 10.8 million people, the second most populated country in the Caribbean. Haiti generally has a hot and humid tropical climate, with some variation due to altitude. Most modern Haitians are descendants of former black African slaves, and the remainder are of European or Arabic descent, which came to live in Haiti during World War I and World War II or during the colonial era. Millions of Haitians live abroad in countries such as the United States, Dominican Republic, Cuba, Canada, and many others. And Haiti is also the second oldest independent nation in the Western Hemisphere. During the slave trade that occurred in the 17th and 18th century, many Africans were taken from their homes and forced to work in harsh conditions. Most of the slaves brought to Haiti were from the cultural area of Fon, Iwi, and Yoruba, which is roughly Nigeria, Benin, Togo, and Ghana on today's maps. These cultural areas had a shared ideology of dual cosmos, which is made up of the Nana Bukan, which is the god creator, and the Vodouns, which is the god actors. Since many slaves came from the same cultural area, their beliefs would often overlap and eventually cultivated into one religion, which is Voodoo.
Vodun shares its roots with Haitian Vodou. In fact, both Voodoo and Vodun's names originate from the Fon word Vodou, meaning spirit or spiritual power. Vodun has around 1.2 million practitioners in Benin, and as one could imagine, these religions share many common aspects, such as several deities, due to their intertwined roots. However, there are key differences between them. These religions essentially represent two different evolutionary paths of the spiritual beliefs of the indigenous people of the West African region. Those who were enslaved created their own religion as a method of survival in a new world, which was quickly suppressed by Catholic slave owners, leading to voodoo's syncretizing with Catholicism. Alternatively, the development of West African Vodou lacks the influence of this greater tradition.
These religious practices also held another important function of strengthening the bonds between slaves, which created a united front that allowed them to resist in their own indirect ways, and eventually this resistance cultivated into an entire full-blown revolt. Religious leaders such as Bokman Tuti helped organize slaves into rebelling by using religious functions, which also served as a strategic meeting time for slaves to organize their revolt. It also helped empower slaves and keep them believing in their freedom rather than accepting their current situation. This culminated into their victory in 1804, where the slaves were able to free themselves from their masters and establish their own country. Today, many Haitians still practice voodoo today, and indeed has spread to other countries with their own variations of voodoo. However, official charts will often not see it as such because Haitians will often have no difference between voodoo and Catholicism because to them the two are basically the same thing.
Divine and powerful, spirits called Loa provide the link between humans and divine. Each Loa is identified with and bound to one of the nations. Nations are classifications of variety, Loa, and rituals based on their origin. There are about 8 nations in Haitian Vodou: Rada, Petwo, Nago, Igbo, Wangol, Senegal, Guinea, and Congo. The largest and most inclusive ones are Rada, home of wise and benevolent spirits that accompanied slaves from Central Africa to the New World, and Petwo, the fierce spirits drawn from the Central Africa and creolized in Haiti, whose rites were born of the rage against the evil fate suffered by the Africans transported to the New World. Rada and Petwo, which although manifest differently, share many common elements. The Rada rites can be traced to Kingdom of Dahomey, Nigeria, Benin, and Togo. They are considered douce, sweet-tempered, while Petwo Loas are considered anme, bitter. Many of the Loa, however, exist endezo, which means they can be served in both Rada and Petwo ritual. Dancing plays a considerable role in voodoo, a system of movements which brings people and Loa together in a progressive mutual relationship of knowledge and growth. The dances are accompanied by drums, which are the most sacred objects in the voodoo rites. The intensity of the dancers and the energy that has to surge through them if the Iwa are to manifest is directly related to the abilities of the drummers to both lead and follow the pulse of the dance. It also requires a huge physical and emotional stamina. The making of drums is a ritual process involving various ceremonies of making it worthy of being the repository of Loas. The devotees often bow before the drum and the drummer. Offerings for the drum are made during the ceremony called Menger Tambor, or feeding the drum. The beat of the drum is accompanied by songs. The songs are repetitive and function as the chants to welcome the spirits. The possessions or the manifestations of Loa, also called the mounting of the Loa. This metaphor is drawn from the horse and its rider. Actions and behavior of the horse are the expression of the will of the rider, although this whole possession is invisible to the horse. Papa Legba, the link between the visible mortal and invisible immortal world, is a Rada spirit. As a guardian of the sacred gateway, he is the one who grants contact with the other Loa. He is also the guardian of the home, or Maid Bentacion, master of the inhabitation. He is the first one to be ritually saluted. His veve, the sign of crossword, should be drawn first, with the flowers on the flat ground or traced in the air. It's where the communication is established, energy and forces are set up. Through the center post, the spirits enter. Around the center post, all ritual dances are performed. Dambale, is a spirit of snake, serpents, water, and rain. He is the father of all Loa and a primary source of the life wisdom and life force. A positive source that encircles the universe. He is protector of handicapped, crippled, deformed, and albinos. He and his wife Aida Vodou, the rainbow, are often represented as intertwined snakes. Ceremonies with Damballa are extremely particular. Everyone in the assistance must be entirely dressed in freshly clean white clothes. Women have to have their head tied with white silk scarves. As a snake, he does not have feet, so the possessed one right away falls on the ground. He does not talk, but only makes hissing and whistling noises. His colors are white and silver. His food offerings are eggs, flour, white anisette syrup, and honey. It's not the sea that's sacred, but the spirit of the sea. Agua is the spirit of the sea, captain and protector of ships, fishermen, and both plant and animal sea life. The ideal husband and lover, he is strong and peaceful. His services take place by the sea or the edge of the lakes and rivers. A big raft is constructed with a lot of offerings such as cake, melon, white roosters, male ducks, and even a champagne. It's then floated to the sea. If the raft sinks, it was accepted by the agua. If it returns back to the shore, it was rejected, which means a new one should be made. His colors are blue and white and sea green. His food offerings are champagne, cakes, white wine, ducks, cane syrup. Ursulufreda is the goddess of love, beauty, and passion. She is personification of feminine beauty and grace. Her arrival pervades through the air and all anxiety and urgencies vanish. Tension dissolves and the movements become more natural. Possessed one walks slowly, swinging hips, ogling men and pausing for a kiss. Her colors are pink and white. Her altar is decorated with jewelry, perfumes, lace, comb, and lipstick. Her food offerings are sweet perfumes, sweet food such as bananas fried in sugar, and mild cigarettes. Her petro version, Urzuli Dantor, is a mother and protector of women, children, and neglect of society. She is a representation of slavery struggle, who arose during the time when slave owners broke up the families. Urzuli Danto is a dark-skinned, hard-working peasant woman dressed in blue and red fabrics. She has no husband but a daughter whom she is devoted. Her offerings are clarion, a raw ram, fired pork, and unfiltered camels. Ogu is a Radha Loa of might, power, and authority. He is a god of war, iron, fire, metalworking, politics, and technology. Blacksmithing was his initial Radha version, but in Petwo, he is a warrior. He is covered with iron and immune to fire and bullets. Ogu's symbol is a piece of iron which he uses to fight his enemies. He is always depicted smoking a cigar. His colors are red and black. His food offerings are yams, russet pigs, and roosters. Baron Samedi is the head of Geda family of rockless spirits that embody the power of life and death. His symbol is the cross where every person, and even the sun, will one day arrive. He is the keeper of the cemetery and the guardian of ancestral knowledge heritage. His devotees dress in black and purple and surround themselves with graveyard imagery. They are also known for wearing top hats, old funeral coats, and black veils. His colors are black and purple. His food offerings are cigarettes, coffee, and gin. His altar is decorated with crosses, candles, and miniature coffins, a top hat, and cane. Zakan is the patron of crops, agriculture, and those working on the land. Known as the Minister of Agriculture, is a good-natured peasant from the mountains addressed familiarly as Papa or cousin. He often can appear unasked in the ceremony for another Loa. He likes to dance in bare feet, therefore the shoes of the possessed one are often removed. He transfers from one possessed to another through a double handshake and a spin. His food offerings are boiled maize, ephebus, stuffed pig intestines, clarion, and raw sugar. His colors are blue and red.
One of the main differences between Voodoo and Vodun is that many of the loas of the different nations within Voodoo are represented by a Roman Catholic saint. For example, Izili Danto, a female loa associated with vengeance, is represented commonly as the Black Madonna, the Polish patron saint. In Vodun, however, the loas maintain their original names and appearances.
The structure of your house, you called it, you know, is it a seniority thing then? You know, whoever's been...
So it's a lineage-based system. So really a societe is a family. Our mother, Mambo Maud Evans, is the head of the house. She inherited the house from her mother when her mother, Selide Bomambo, died. Maud took over. And she initiated all of us, so we're her children, her spiritual children. Mm-hmm. So it's like a family. And yeah, the brothers and sisters who initiated before you are your elders. Mm-hmm. So you can learn from them, but we all learn from each other. I mean, we all have different areas of specialty and things we're really good at, and we teach and help each other out. But mommy is the mother. She's the head of the house. So it is a hierarchy, but it's also, you know, it's like a web of relationships. We all, you know, none of us may see each other for a while because we're all busy living our own lives or living in different states. But when it's time to make a party happen, when it's time to serve the spirits, we all get together and we come together as a family. So it's a family structure with a bit of hierarchy thrown in. Yeah.
West African Vodun is also more matriarchal than Voodoo. The priests are female, and the eldest mother is considered the head of the family. This is likely due to the supreme creator in Vodun, Mawu, being depicted as an elderly woman and a mother, whereas the creolized supreme god in Voodoo, Bondye, is depicted as a male and as a distant, unreachable figure. One may look at Vodun and say, this is what Voodoo would look like had slavery and Catholic influence not affected its development. When it comes to the greater traditions practiced worldwide, such as Christianity, Hinduism, and Islam, Haitian Voodoo does share some similarities in its practice and structure. Haitian Voodoo emphasizes the importance of a family loa that represents the temperament and fortune of the members of that family. This practice closely resembles the Catholic practice of acknowledging a familial patron saint, which likely explains why many loa are syncretized with the Roman Catholic saints.
So, would you say is it Ogu who is the, is he the specific loa that you have a connection to, or are there others?
He's the patron. He's kind of like the patron saint of our house. And the thing about Voodoo is that every person has spirits, but they may not all have the same spirits. Like someone may have Ogu walking with them, like in their spiritual court that's around them, but another person may not have Ogu. They may have Dambala, who's another spirit, and one else may have Izili, and you may and everybody has usually way more than one spirit walking with them. And just like people, they can come and go into your life.
Voodoo also asserts the existence of a singular supreme deity who created the universe, much like God in Christianity and Allah in Islam. The familial structure and the purpose of the loas also in part resembles the pantheon of gods in Hinduism, in which each manifestation of spirits controls or is responsible for a different aspect of life or nature, and they are all related. These similarities that already existed between Catholicism and the practices brought to Haiti by the slaves made syncretism quite easy, which played a part in Voodoo's survival during the slave period. Despite this, Haitian Voodoo still differs in many ways from the greater traditions. For one, Voodoo asserts that the spirit of one's ancestors remain in the world after they die, whereas most greater traditions believe the afterlife to be one or more separate places that the spirit goes to after death, leaving the earth. Voodoo also asserts the duality of spirit. The life force within the body is split between two portions, one that controls the body and one that controls the mind. Christianity poses that the spirit within the body is part of the all-inclusive spirit that resides in all humans, known as the Holy Spirit. Within most of the greater religions, there exists different sects that practice the religion differently. Voodoo has different families or nations of different loa, such as the Rada and Petwo nations. However, each of these nations are contained under the larger umbrella of Voodoo, whereas sects of a different religion separate themselves definitively.
It's almost, in Christianity you have, say, like, different sects that have very different opinions on things. So you can have from one house to another different ideals.
So, and it depends on geography too, because in the northern part of the country, people emphasize different spirits than they do in the southern part. Like we're in the south of Haiti, and we're a Nago house, Nago. That's like the spirit Ogu is a Nago spirit, and he's the head of our house. He's the main spirit that we serve. We serve the other spirits too, but we're very, he's the head, and different spirits rule different houses. It just depends on the lineage of the house that's in question.
A major difference between voodoo and the greater traditions is that voodoo is an oral tradition, requiring initiation in order to learn the specifics of ritual and practice, unlike the larger traditions where ancient religious texts often rest at the center of their belief systems, and knowledge of the religion is often spread intentionally to encourage conversion.
What was your initiation like?
Well, it's called Kanzo, Kanzo. It is it's a process that happens in Haiti. My house is located in Jacmel, which is a city on the southern coast of Haiti. And I went there. I was there for about 2 weeks. The whole initiation, Kanzo, takes 9 days. You're secluded. I can't really go into detail about too much about what happens because it's a secret process, but basically you're secluded for 9 days, and there are ceremonies and rituals done to you and for you. And if you make it all the way through, then you come out and you are kind of reborn as a priest or a priestess.
Another contrasting feature is that the moral code of one practicing voodoo may be centered more around the taboos and practices specifically related to that person's family loa, rather than originating from a set code of tenets or texts. Because of this, voodoo is more concerned with the ways in which one's actions affect their family and community. This difference can be attributed to the way practitioners also view punishment and judgment. In Christianity, for example, the accumulation of one's sins after death are used to determine their destination in the afterlife, whereas voodoo operates on the principle that the loas of nature and the spirits of one's ancestors will judge a person throughout their life, inflicting punishment or reward continuously by intervening in the natural world. Essentially, this belief drives practitioners to adopt voodoo as a lifestyle that dictates their day-to-day actions.
In my lineage, I am not allowed to curse someone preemptively. Like, I can't just think, oh, that person, I don't like that person, I'm going to curse them. I'm not allowed to do that. It's against my vows. Now, if someone hurts me, I can defend myself. If someone hurts someone I love or destroys my property or something like that, then I'm allowed to strike back at them. But I can't just preemptively curse. Now, not everybody has those same ethics. There are some people who will do cursing for hire. But it differs house to house.
Religious practices within voodoo also differ heavily from most of the greater traditions. Voodoo is a very dance-oriented religion with many complex rituals that take several days of careful preparation. These rituals often involve offerings and sacrifice, and each loa has his or her preference for such. This is a practice not found in the greater traditions where prayer and going to worship are more commonplace. Religious idols and possession rituals also separate many of the lesser traditions from the greater ones, and voodoo is no exception. Likely due to its African roots, voodoo also contains a greater focus on women within the context of religious practice, and the egalitarian inclusion of female priests is another principle that contrasts the male-dominated leadership in the greater traditions.
The misconceptions that we sacrifice humans, we don't do that. That we voodoo dolls, that we stick pins in dolls to torture people, we don't do that. That we torture animals, stuff like that. We do perform animal sacrifice, but it's not willy-nilly, because people think that we just curse innocent people. And that those are all Hollywood misconceptions.
The voodoo dolls, that's kind of the quintessential thing that you picture. Is there any basis for that?
So we do use dolls to heal. As we use them as targets. Like if we want to heal someone, we can take a doll and say a little cloth doll and say, okay, this is John Smith, and we're going to direct healing energy towards this doll.
Haitian Vodou is a religion that is largely misconstrued around the world for the sake of dramatization. However, this tradition has a rich and complex history built on hundreds of years of struggle and development. Although stereotypes and misinformation surround this practice, its unique aspects of spirituality and ritual make it a religion worth acknowledging and learning about. The diaspora of African root traditions forced by slavery has spawned several creolized and syncretic belief systems across the Caribbean, and Vodou is a great example of how a religion founded in hardship can continue to unite and teach people in the present.